Chapter: Strong People. The highest opinion of you as an individual is the opinion held by the people around you.
Anastasia spoke a lot about the people we call entrepreneurs and their influence on society's spirituality. Then she picked up a twig and drew a circle in the earth. Inside the circle, she drew many more little circles, and in the middle of each of these, she put a dot. On either side of the circle, more circles. It was as if she were drawing a map of the planets inside the earthly world and adding a great deal more to it.
The big circle is the Earth, the planet people live on. The small circles are small collectives of people who are bound together by something. The points are the people who lead these collectives. Whether or not the people around those leaders are doing well or badly will depend on how these leaders treat the people, what they have them do, and what kind of psychological climate they create through their influence. If the majority are doing well, a light emanation will come from each of them and from the collective as a whole. If they are doing badly, then the emanation is dark.
She hatched over some of the little circles, making them dark.
Of course, many other factors will affect their inner state. But in this span of time, while they're in this collective, the main factor will be their relations with their leader. It is very important for the universe that light emanate from the earth as a whole, an emanation of the light of love and good. As the Bible says, God is love. I feel sorry, very sorry, for the people you call entrepreneurs. They are the most unfortunate of all. I so wanted to help them, but it's hard for me to do that alone.
You're wrong, Anastasia. We consider the most unfortunate to be the pensioners, people who don't know how to find work and provide themselves with the necessary housing, clothing, and food. An entrepreneur is a person who has all this to a greater degree than others. He has access to pleasures others can't even dream of.
What kind, for example?
Well, even if we take the average entrepreneur, he has a modern car and an apartment. He has no problems at all with clothing and food.
What about joy? Satisfaction in something? Look.
Once again, Anastasia drew my attention to the grass, and like the first time, when she showed me the woman gardener, began showing me other scenes.
There, you see? There he is sitting in the car you call stylish, see? He's alone in the back seat, and it's warm and cozy in the car. His experienced chauffeur is driving very smoothly. But look at how tense and pensive the face of the entrepreneur sitting in the back seat is. He's thinking, making plans, he's afraid of something. Look, he's picked up what you call a telephone. He's worried. There, he's received the information. Now he has to assess it quickly and come up with a decision. He's all tense. He's thinking. It's ready. His decision has been made. Now look. Look, he's sitting calmly apparently, but there is doubt and alarm on his face. No joy at all. Outside his car it's spring, but he neither sees nor feels the spring.
It's work, Anastasia.
It's a way of life, and there's no break from the moment he wakes up to the moment he falls asleep, and even in his sleep. He doesn't see the budding leaves or the springtime rivulets. He's perpetually surrounded by envious rivals who want to take away what he has. The attempt to wall himself off from them with what you call security and a fortress-like house does not bring complete peace, since the fear and worry are inside him and remain with him always. So, it is until he dies, and just before the end of his life, he regrets that he had to leave everything behind.
The entrepreneur does have joys. They come when he achieves a desired result and carries out a plan he's made.
That's not true. He doesn't have time to rejoice in what he's achieved because it's followed by another plan, a more complicated plan, and it all starts in again, only with greater difficulties.
The forest beauty was drawing me a very gloomy and sad picture about the outwardly prosperous stratum of our society, and I didn't want to believe this picture. I tried to refute her. Anastasia, you forget their ability to achieve the goal they've set and obtain the good things in life, the admiring looks of women, and the respect of those around them.
An illusion. None of that exists. Where have you seen a respectful or admiring look from someone gazing at the passenger of a stylish car, or the owner of the richest dwelling? There's not one person who would confirm what you've said. Those are looks of envy, indifference, and irritation. Even women can't love these men because their emotion is tainted by the desire to possess not only this person, but his property as well. In turn, these men cannot truly love a woman because they can't free up enough space for such a great emotion.
The search for further arguments was pointless, since what she said could only be confirmed or refuted by the people she was talking about. As an entrepreneur myself, I had never given any thought to what Anastasia said, had not analyzed the number of my minutes of joy, and I certainly could not do that for others. Entrepreneurs just don't snivel or complain. Each strives to look successful and content with his life. This is probably why, for most people, the image of the entrepreneur is someone getting nothing but good things from life. Anastasia was picking up not the outward manifestation of feelings, but the subtler ones concealed within. She defined man's condition based on how much light she saw. It seemed to me that I could see the scenes and situations she saw more from her voice. I told Anastasia this:
I will help you right now. It's simple. Close your eyes and lie on the grass with your arms out to the sides. You have to relax. Mentally imagine the whole earth. Try to see its color and the blue glow coming from it. Then narrow your imagination's ray. Don't let it take in the whole earth. Make it narrower and narrower until you see specific details. Look for people where there is the most blue light. Narrow your ray even more and you'll see one person or several. Try it again with my help.
She took my hand and lined her fingers up with mine, resting their tips in my palm. The fingers of her other hand, lying in the grass, pointed up. Mentally, I did everything she said, and there arose before me, though not very distinctly, a scene of 3 people sitting at a table and conversing excitedly. I couldn't understand what they were saying. I heard no speech of any kind.
No, those aren't entrepreneurs. We'll find them now.
She kept leading me on with her ray, going into offices big and small, private clubs, feasts and brothels. The blue glow was either very weak or absent altogether.
Look, it's night there already, but he's still sitting alone in his smoke-filled office. Something's not right for this entrepreneur. And this one, look how pleased he is, in a pool, and the girls beside him. He's high, but there's no glow. He's simply trying to forget, and his self-satisfaction is artificial. This one is at home. There's his wife, and his child is asking him something. The telephone rings. There, look, he's serious again. And even the people close to him have receded into the background.
And again, one after the other, every possible situation was illuminated, some outwardly good and some not very, until we came across a horrifying scene. Suddenly, we saw a room, probably in some apartment, a fairly respectable one, but lying on a round table was a naked man. His hands and feet were tied to the table legs, and his head dangled, and his mouth was sealed with brown tape. Sitting at the table were 2 young, solidly built men, one with a buzz cut, and the other with slicked down hair. In an armchair set back under a floor lamp sat a young woman. Her mouth was taped too, and a fabric cord below her breast strapped her to the chair. Each leg was tied to a leg of the chair. She was only wearing a torn slip. An emaciated older man was sitting next to her, drinking something, probably brandy. There was chocolate on the small table in front of him. Those sitting at the round table were not drinking. They poured a liquid, vodka or alcohol, on the lying man's chest and lit it. They're settling a score, I realized. Anastasia moved her ray away from the scene, but I exclaimed, "Bring it back. Do something." She brought the scene back and replied,
I can't. It's all in the past. This can't be stopped. It had to be done before. Now it's too late.
I watched as if a spell had been cast over me, and all of a sudden clearly saw the woman's eyes, which were filled with horror and begging for mercy. "Do something! If you have a heart, do at least something!" I shouted at Anastasia.
But this isn't in my power. This was pre-programmed, and not by me, and I can't intervene directly. They're stronger now.
So, where is this goodness of yours, this ability? Anastasia was silent. The terrible scene clouded over slightly. Then the old man drinking brandy suddenly disappeared. Suddenly I felt a weakness through my whole body. I also felt my hand that was touching Anastasia start to go numb. I heard her somewhat weakened voice. She could barely get the words.
Take away your hand, Vladimir.
She couldn't even say my whole name. Rising, I pulled my hand away from Anastasia. My hand hung as if numb, the way you get pins and needles sometimes, and it was all white. I wiggled my fingers, and the numbness started to pass. I took one look at Anastasia and was horrified. Her eyes were closed. The pink had drained from her face. Her hands and face seemed to have no blood at all under the skin. She lay there as if lifeless. The grass around her for a radius of about 3 meters was also white and wilted. I realized something horrible had happened, and I shouted, "Anastasia! What's happened to you, Anastasia?" She did not react to my cry in any way. Then I grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her no longer resilient, but rather limp body. Still, her perfectly white, bloodless lips were silent. "Can you hear me, Anastasia?" Her eyelashes raised a very little, and her lackluster eyes looked at me, no longer expressing anything. I grabbed a flask of water, lifted Anastasia's chin, and tried to get her to drink, but she couldn't swallow. I looked at her and thought feverishly about what I should do. Finally, her lips stirred ever so slightly, and she whispered,
Whisper, move me somewhere else, to a tree.
I lifted her limp body, carried her away from the circle of white grass, and laid her next to the nearest cedar. After a while she began to come around a little, and I asked, "What was it that happened to you, Anastasia?"
Softly, I tried to carry out your request, Vladimir.
She answered softly, and a minute later added,
I think it worked.
"But you look so awful. Did you almost die?"
I broke the natural laws. I interfered where I shouldn't have. This took all my power and energy. I'm amazed it was enough.
Why did you take that risk if it was so dangerous?
I had no choice. You wanted it. I was afraid not to carry out your request, afraid you would stop respecting me entirely. You would think I was just talking, always talking, and I couldn't do anything in real life.
Her eyes looked at me imploringly, and her soft voice shook a little when she said,
But I can't explain to you how it's done, how this natural mechanism works. I feel it, but I can't explain it so you'd understand. And your scientists still couldn't either. Probably.
She lowered her head and fell silent, as if summoning her powers. Once again, she looked at me with pleading eyes and said,
Now you'll consider me crazy or a witch even more.
All of a sudden I had a strong urge to do something nice for her, but what? I wanted to say I considered her a normal, ordinary person, a handsome and intelligent woman, but I didn't have the sensation of an ordinary relation toward her, and she, with her intuition, would not have believed me. Suddenly, I remembered her story about how her great-grandfather usually greeted her when she was a child, how her grey-haired great-grandfather had knelt on one knee before little Anastasia and kissed her little hand. I went down on one knee in front of Anastasia, took her still pale and slightly cold hand, and kissed it, and said, "If you are a crazy woman, then you are the best, noblest, smartest, and most beautiful crazy woman of all." A smile finally touched Anastasia's lips again, and her eyes looked at me gratefully. The color began to return to her cheeks. "Anastasia, that scene was fairly dreary. Did you choose it especially?"
I was looking for at least one example, a good one, but I couldn't find one. They're all in the grip of their worries. They're face to face with their problems, and they have almost no spiritual communication.
So, what can be done? What can you suggest, other than pity for them? But I have to tell you, these are strong people, these entrepreneurs.
Very strong and interesting. They seem to be living two lives in the space of one. One life is known only to them, not even to the people close to them. The other is their outward life, for those around them. But I think they have to be helped by strengthening spiritual and sincere communication among themselves. They need to strive openly for purity of intention.
Anastasia, I will probably try to do what you've asked. I'll try to write the book and create an association of entrepreneurs with pure intentions, but only as I myself have understood this.
It will be hard for you. I won't be able to help you enough. I've so little strength left. It will take me a long time to restore it. For a while now, I won't be able to see at a distance with my ray. Even now, I don't see you very well with my ordinary vision.
You mean you're going blind, Anastasia?
I think it will all be restored. Only it's too bad that for a while, I won't be able to help you.
You don't need to help me, Anastasia. Try to safeguard yourself for our son and help others. I had to leave and catch up with the ship. I waited for her to look almost like her former self, at least outwardly, and climbed into my boat. Anastasia grabbed the handle on its bow and gave it a shove. The boat was picked up by the current and carried off. Anastasia was standing almost to her knees in the water, and the hem of her long skirt was wet and flowing in the waves. I pulled the outboard's cord. The engine caught, rending the silence I'd grown accustomed to over the last 3 days, and the boat jerked forward, gathering more and more speed, moving away from the tiger hermit standing in the water all alone by the shore. All of a sudden, Anastasia got out of the water and ran down the shore to catch up with the boat. Her hair, streaming in the oncoming wind, looked like a comet's tail. She was trying to run very fast, probably using all her strength in doing so, trying to do the impossible, catch up with a fast-moving boat. But even she couldn't do that. The distance between Anastasia running along the shore and the boat slowly increased. I felt sorry for her useless efforts, and wishing to put an end to the distressing moment of parting as quickly as possible, I jammed the throttle down with all my might. The thought flashed through my mind that Anastasia might think I had once again been frightened by her and was running away. The engine roaring in anguish made the bow rise above the water as the boat rushed forward, increasing the distance between us even faster. While she... Lord, what was she doing? Anastasia had ripped off her wet skirt, which was getting in the way of her running, as she ran and tossed the torn clothing aside. The speed of her running increased, and something incredible happened. Slowly, the distance between her and the boat began to diminish. I could see an almost sheer cliff up ahead in her path. Continuing to press the now unyielding throttle, I thought the cliff would stop her and put an end to this torturous scene. But Anastasia kept up her swift running, and from time to time she stretched her hands out in front of her, as if groping space with them. Had her vision really deteriorated so much she didn't see the cliff? Without slowing her pace in the least, Anastasia ran up the cliff, fell to her knees, raised her hands to the sky, and began to shout more or less in my direction. I heard her voice through the engine's wild roar and the water's noise. I heard what seemed like a whisper.
Sand bar ahead! Sand bar! Sunken logs!
Quickly turning my head, still not fully realizing what was happening, I turned the wheel so sharply that the boat heeled sharply and nearly started taking on water. A huge submerged log, popularly called a topliac, one end stuck in the sandbar, the other barely poking out of the water, just grazed the speeding boat. A direct strike would have ripped through its thin aluminum bottom. When I had escaped to the river's channel, I looked back at the cliff and whispered in the direction of the lonely kneeling figure, which was becoming an ever littler spot. Thank you, Anastasia.
Chapter: Who are you, Anastasia?
The ship was waiting for me in Surgut. Captain and crew awaited orders. But I just couldn't concentrate enough to decide on our route, so I gave orders to extend our stay in Surgut, have a party for the local population, and hold a consumer goods and service show. My thoughts were occupied by the events connected with Anastasia. I bought a lot of popular scientific literature in a store, books about unusual phenomena and people's abilities and the history of the Siberian land. I locked myself in my cabin as I tried to find an explanation in books. A few questions arose concerning our life. One of them will not quit me even now. Is our system of education and child-rearing sufficient for grasping the essence of being and for each person to set priorities in his life correctly? Does that system help or hinder us in making sense of man's essence and purpose? We have created a huge system of education. We teach our children and one another on the basis of this system. In kindergarten, school, higher education, and graduate school. This system has allowed us to invent things and fly into the cosmos. Following it, we build our own daily life accordingly. With its help, we try to construct our own happiness. We try to understand the cosmos, the atom, and various anomalous phenomena, which we love to discuss and describe in sensational articles in the press and scientific publications. Only one phenomenon do we, for some reason, persist in skirting, and skirting very diligently. We give the impression of being afraid to talk about it, afraid because it so easily demolishes our fundamental system of education and scientific conclusions and laughs at the realities of our daily life. We try to pretend there is no such phenomenon, but there is and will be, no matter how much we turn away from it or evade it. Isn't it time we took a closer look at it, and perhaps, through the combined efforts of human minds, answer this question? Why have all the great thinkers, without exception, the people who have created religious and philosophical teachings, the different teachings that the majority of humanity follow, or at least try to follow, been hermits before creating their teachings? Why have they secluded themselves, and in most instances, in the forest? Note, not in some super academy, but specifically in the forest. Why did the Old Testament Moses go alone into the mountain wilderness for so long, and then return to reveal to the world the wisdom set forth on the stone tablets? Why did Jesus Christ seclude himself even from his disciples in the desert, mountains, and forests? Why did a man by the name of Siddhartha Gautama, who lived in India in the mid-6th century BC, seclude himself in the forest for 7 years? Then hermit Siddhartha Gautama came out of the forest and gave people his teachings, a teaching that to this day, millennia later, excites so many men's minds. People build large temples and call this teaching Buddhism. Later, they called this man the Buddha. Why did our not-so-very-distant ancestors, who are now historical figures like Seraphim of Sarov or Sergius of Radonej, also go into the forest as hermits and after a short period of time attain wisdom of such depth that the kings of the world crossed trackless expanses to go see them? Monasteries and magnificent temples were erected on the site of their hermitage. Thus, Troitse Sergiev Lavra in Sergiev Posad, in the Moscow region, for example, attracts crowds of people even today. And all this began with just one forest hermit. Why, what, and who helped these people achieve wisdom? What gave them knowledge and brought them closer to understanding the essence of being? How did they live? What did they do? And what did they think about while they were secluded in the forest? Who taught them? Those questions began suggesting themselves to me a while after my contact with Anastasia. Then I began to read everything I could find about hermits. But I have yet to find the answer, because nowhere is it written what happened to them there. I think the answers need to be sought through joint efforts. I'm trying to describe the events of my 3-day sojourn in the Siberian taiga forest and my feelings for my encounter with Anastasia, in the hope that someone will be able to grasp the essence of this phenomenon and make sense of our way of life. From everything I've seen and heard so far, only one thing is indisputable. People who live as hermits in the forest, including Anastasia, see what is going on in our life from an angle distinct from ours. Some of Anastasia's notions are 180 degrees opposite those commonly accepted. Who is closer to the truth? Who should judge this? My task has been merely to set forth what I saw and heard in order to give others the opportunity to respond. Meanwhile, I was also interested in whether a feeling of love could truly be born in Anastasia, just because, while trying to help a village girl, she cried out, "I love you, Vladimir." Why did the simple words we utter, often without investing sufficient worthy feeling in them, affect Anastasia despite the difference in our age and despite the difference in our views on and way of life? The popular scientific literature provides no answers. Then I picked up the Bible and found the answer. At the very beginning of John's Gospel, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." How many times had that struck me, such a laconic and precise definition of this amazing book. A great deal became clearer to me all at once. Not knowing cunning or deceit, Anastasia could not utter words blithely. I remembered what she'd said.
I actually forgot that I can't just say words, that they have to have feelings behind them, a consciousness and authenticity of natural information.
Oh my God, how unlucky she was. Why say these words to me, a family man, no longer young, subject to the many temptations of our world, ruinous and dark temptations, as she herself said. With her inner purity, she deserved someone completely different. But who could love her, with her unusual way of life, mindset, and intellect? At first glance, she appeared to be an ordinary, only unusually beautiful and attractive young woman. But later, when you start to communicate, she seemed to be transformed into a being living beyond the bounds of the rational. These feelings may have arisen in me because I didn't have sufficient knowledge or understanding of the essence of our existence. Others might perceive her differently. I recalled that even in parting, I had no desire to kiss or hug her. I don't know whether she wanted that. What did she want anyway? I recalled her telling me about her dreams. What a strange philosophy of her love. Organize a community of entrepreneurs in order to help them. Write a book with her reflections for people. Transport people across the dark forces span of time. And she believed it. She was convinced all this would come to pass. I'm a fine one, I gave her my word. I would try to organize a community of entrepreneurs and write a book. Now she was probably dreaming of this even more. She should have come up with something a little simpler and more realistic. An incomprehensible compassion for Anastasia arose in me. I imagined her waiting in her forest and dreaming that everything would actually happen. If she was just waiting, just dreaming, that was fine. For all I knew, she might still begin to make certain attempts and direct her ray of goodness, expend her soul's colossal energy, and believe in the impossible. Although she had demonstrated to me the possibilities of her ray and tried to explain its mechanisms, my consciousness had not accepted it as reality. Judge for yourself. According to her, she directed her ray at a person, shone an invisible light on him, and bestowed on him her feelings and desire for what was good and light.
No, just don't think I'm interfering in the psyche or violating the soul and reason. Man is free to take or reject these feelings, to whatever extent he likes, and they're close to his soul, however much of these feelings he can hold inside. Then he will become lighter outwardly too, and your illness will abate, either in part or in full. My grandfather and great-grandfather can do this, and I could always do it. My great-grandfather taught me when he was playing with me in my childhood. But now my ray has become many times more powerful than my grandfather's and great-grandfather's, because, they say, this unusual emotion called love has been born in me. It is very bright, and even burns a little. I have so much of it, and I want to give it.
To whom, Anastasia?
To you and to people, anyone who might accept it. I want everyone to feel good. When you start doing what I've dreamed of, I'll bring many of these people to you, and together you,
Recalling all this and picturing her, I suddenly realized I couldn't not try at least to do what she wanted. Otherwise, doubts would torment me the rest of my life, and I would be left feeling I had betrayed Anastasia's dream. It may not be very realistic, but she wanted it so passionately. I made a decision for myself, and the steamer set out straight for Novosibirsk. I assigned its unloading and the disassembly of the exhibit equipment to the CEO of my firm. I tried to explain myself to my wife and left for Moscow. I left to make, or at least attempt to make, at least in part, Anastasia's dream a reality. To be continued.
End of chapter. End of Anastasia. Book 1 of the Ringing Cedars series. Join us when we begin Book 2 of the series, Ringing Cedars of Russia. Chapter: Extraterrestrial or Human.